Was Saint Joseph the terror of demons, a young carpenter, or a retired elderly widower? What comes to your mind when you think of Saint Joseph, the foster father of Jesus and the head of the Holy Family? Is it a young man with dark hair and some tools for his carpentry work? Or an old grey-haired elderly man with a baby Jesus? If you look for pictures of Saint Joseph, you'd probably find a mix of both young and old Saint Joseph. For someone so close to Jesus and so crucial to his upbringing, it is surprising to see how diversified representations of Saint Joseph can be. Speaking of which, if you want to see surprising and diversified Catholic content, make sure to like our video, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell if you don't want to miss any of our videos. Also, please share our videos with all your families and friends. It really helps us a lot. So, coming back to Saint Joseph, was he an elderly widower who married the teenage Virgin Mary? Or was he a young man in his prime who willingly chose to live a chaste and pure life as head of the Holy Family? To answer this, let's first look at what the Bible has to say about Saint Joseph. Now, considering the important role he plays in Jesus' life, Saint Joseph has very little written about him in the Gospels. In Matthew and Luke, he is mentioned in the first two chapters, also known as the Infancy Narratives. While Luke mentions him very briefly, Matthew's Gospel provides a bit more detail. While these accounts don't give us a specific age for Saint Joseph, they do leave behind some clues. In Luke 1, we have an angel appearing to Zechariah to announce the birth of John the Baptist and angel Gabriel appearing to Mary to announce the birth of Jesus. When we look at the first account, Zechariah refers to himself as an old man. The word used here is presbytus, meaning an old man. This makes sense considering that later on Angel Gabriel even tells Mary that her cousin Elizabeth, Zechariah's wife, has conceived in her old age. So Zechariah and Elizabeth were an elderly couple. But this is not the only time this word is used to describe an old man in the New Testament. In Titus, St. Paul tells Titus that older men must be temperate, serious and sound in faith. And in Philemon, St. Paul refers to himself as an old man. Both these passages are referring to older men, possibly elders in the community. On the other hand, in the other Annunciation account, the term used to describe Saint Joseph is ania, meaning a man or husband. Now, this is the same term used in a few other instances in the New Testament, like when the Pharisees questioned Jesus about women divorcing their husbands, or in the feeding of the 5,000 men apart from the women and children. It is also the same term used to describe the men who carried the paralytic, the blind man whose eyes were opened, and the other men from Jesus' various miraculous healings. The term was generally used in the Gospels to describe a man or a husband. But how do we know that it was just a general term for a person of the male sex? Well, just like we would use the terms child, teenager, young adult, adult, elder to distinguish people of different ages, in Greek, there were specific terms to describe men of specific age categories. The church father Philo of Alexandria describes them as follows: first infant, then child, and then youth. Then a young man between the ages of 18 and 27 would be referred to as neoniskos. Someone between 28 to 49 would be referred to as anier, while anyone older than that would be referred to as presbytus. So, there was a clear distinction between men of different ages. So, if Mary was betrothed to Joseph, the elderly man, then Luke would have described him using the term presbytus like he did for Zechariah. But since he used the word ania, it implies that Joseph was probably somewhere between late 20s to early 40s. This meant that he wasn't an old man, but more likely a man in his prime. So, the words from the original text literally point to Saint Joseph being a younger man. But what else does the text reveal about him? If you look at the Infancy Narratives, two events related to Saint Joseph stand out. They are the journey to Bethlehem before Jesus' birth and the escape to Egypt after his birth. Now, just think about it. For the journey to Bethlehem, Saint Joseph had to accompany a 9 months pregnant Mary on a donkey on rough, dangerous mountain terrain through unfavorable weather conditions and with the potential threat of robbers and other criminals. Then, soon after Jesus is born, Joseph has to take Mary and baby Jesus and escape to Egypt in the middle of the night. He is responsible for protecting them from the murderous King Herod. And sometime later, they make another difficult journey to Galilee before settling down in Nazareth. If you look at these situations practically, what makes more sense? Would an old man physically be able to make such long, arduous and dangerous journeys? Even if he managed to do it, he would be in no condition to be a protector or provider for his young wife and newborn child. What would make sense would be to have a young, strong, courageous man to protect and care for his wife and child. So, where did the idea of Joseph, the elderly widower, come from? Unlike the Gospels that are believed to be divinely inspired as sacred scripture, the apocryphal accounts of the life of Mary and Joseph, like those found in the Proto-Evangelium of James, describe Joseph as a 90-year-old widower with children from a previous marriage. In it, Saint Joseph is described as a widower who adopts Mary and marries her to protect her and care for her as she lives out her vow of perpetual virginity. But if the Gospels clearly point to a younger Joseph, why would these accounts describe him as an old man? Well, there might have been a few reasons. For one, it was probably an attempt to protect the perpetual virginity of Mary. It's easier to accept the idea that an old man would have lived a pure and holy life free of sexual desires than to think of a young couple that lived in a chaste and virginal marriage. Secondly, it might have been a way to explain the terms brothers of Jesus to Gentile readers who wouldn't have understood the Jewish use of the term. For Jews, the term brothers denoted male relatives. It was usually used to describe cousins and wasn't restricted to biological siblings from the same mother. So, was Saint Joseph an old guy or widower who adopted the Virgin Mary and raised her along with the rest of his children? Was he just too old to feel any kind of sexual desires towards Mary? Or would it be accurate to depict the terror of demons and protector of the Holy Church and guardian of the Redeemer as a powerful young man in his prime? Everything we know about Saint Joseph, especially from the New Testament accounts, points to a young Saint Joseph, maybe in his early 30s, when the incarnation took place. Like the Virgin Mary, he would have been blessed with a special grace in order to live a chaste, pure life free from concupiscence. Many early church fathers like Saint Jerome, Saint Athanasius, and Saint Gregory Nazianzus also defended the belief that Saint Joseph was a young man. The titles attributed to him like chaste guardian of the virgin, Joseph most chaste, and guardian of virgins become more meaningful when the grace of purity and chastity is considered a gift of grace from God rather than a consequence of his old age. Venerable Fulton Sheen explains it like this. Somehow the assumption had crept in that senility was a better protector of virginity than adolescence. Art thus unconsciously made Joseph a spouse chaste and pure by age rather than virtue. But this is like assuming that the best way to show that a man would never steal is to picture him without hands. But more than that, to make Joseph out as old portrays for us a man who had little vital energy left, rather than one who, having it, kept it in chains for God's sake and for his holy purposes. So, what do you think about this? Was Saint Joseph a vibrant, strong and virtuous young man or a retired elderly widower? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, let us know by liking and subscribing to our channel. It really helps us a lot. Until next time.